Well, hello there. I'm Janet Hudson. I'm a certified coach who helps people tame their inner chaos. And I just want to give you today a very quick overview of what that means, and particularly what that can mean for you. Because once you understand this, you have the keys to the kingdom. Here we go. Oops. Look at all of this stuff. Does this look familiar? Confusion, doubt, anger, uncertainty, overwhelm, resistance, frustration, all of that stuff is inner chaos. At least that's what I call it. This just helps you know that collection of negative emotions that makes us feel very, very uncomfortable. We want to get rid of them. Anything we can do, they make life very, very challenging when they stick around for a long time. Turns out they are part of the inescapable condition of being human. Therefore, that's why I say learning to tame it. That is a life skill that everybody needs to have. Now, let me introduce you to the stuff of life. And that should make sense, right? Just people and circumstances, all of the stuff of life. And you notice here, I have a picture of a trigger because that's exactly what it is. The stuff of life triggers your inner chaos. I'm going to give you some current examples that I've been noticing about the stuff of life. And a lot of these are circumstances that are going on right now. A global pandemic. If you ever wondered how humans would respond, you don't have to guess anymore, right? You have seen it unfold. And all of the things that have come with that. At least in my community, should the schools close? Should they open? Should you wear a mask or not wear a mask? Should there be football or not football? And then it's an election year. So many things, cultural and social divisions. And then economic volatility. Never mind all of the economic challenges with record-breaking unemployment, all kinds of circumstances going on now, the stuff of life. Now, if we had been talking about this a year or two ago, it would be a little bit different, the list, but we experience it all the time. There are people in your life that are not in my life, circumstances in your life that are different from someone else's, but all of that stuff from A to Z, people and circumstances, the stuff of life. And guess what? We react to the stuff of life. Have you noticed how you have reacted to some of these things that have unfolded? Have you noticed how everybody else around you? And most importantly, I have certainly noticed how varied it is. We don't all have the same reactions to this stuff. Keep that in mind because I'm going to help you understand why. Reactions to the stuff of life. And if you kind of grouped all of those reactions, they're strong. And I think they are embedded in this desire to change something about the circumstances, the people. Please, people, change. If only this, if only that. Or to point fingers. Who is to blame? Who messed up? Who made the wrong decision? How could this have been different? On and on we go. All of this analysis is this desire to change something about this uncomfortable situation you find yourself in, and then to blame somebody. And sometimes we blame ourselves, right? Things are not going right, and we blame ourselves. But think of it as desire to change, desire to blame. And one of the ways we try to change it is we just want to make it go away, just ignore it, resist it. Or we want to change it by just like masking over it. Like, let's just go to the bar. Let's eat. Have you noticed people are gaining weight? Or, hey, Netflix. I think at this point, people are kind of Netflixed out, can only overdose on entertainment for so long. Porn. Who knows what the status of that might be? And on you go. Online shopping. These are all forms of let me cover up these uncomfortable negative emotions, this inner chaos. Okay, so you're with me so far. The stuff of life is the trigger, then there's this reaction to it. Then sometimes we're so unhappy with how we responded. Let's say that you've been engaged in some personal development and you realize, hey, I didn't like the way I reacted to that. I wish, I hadn't eaten all that food and handled it better. I wish something had been different about me and how I did it. Gosh. So then you start shaming yourself for not effectively handling the stuff of life. So that's just layering on the inner chaos. So in fact, the trying to change it, the trying to blame yourself or other people, and then shaming, all this just feeds the inner chaos. It's all coming up here. Okay, so we have the stuff of life, all these reactions. Somehow those things have to be connected. Is it the cause? We so often, yes, it must be the cause. And I want to caution you against that. Well, it's very, very common. Remember I said at the beginning, I said the stuff of life is what is it? It's not the cause. It's the trigger. Now that might sound like it's the same thing, just different words, but stick with me, okay? So I want you to see the stuff of life, circumstances changing, people in our lives. Yes, they trigger our reaction, then that's the inner chaos, but it's not the cause of it, okay? And just a little hint here, remember we were talking about the global pandemic and all the things that were going on? Have you noticed the reactions are not the same? So if the stuff of life caused it, why doesn't it cause the same reaction? So that might make you doubt it a little bit. So what is the cause? If it's not the stuff of life, what could it possibly be? Heard this before? It's the meaning that we give the stuff of life. Now, you might be saying, so what? It's the same thing. It's really not. Okay, keep your mind open to consider this. The meaning we give the stuff of life, that starts to tell you why everybody doesn't have the same reaction. The meaning that we give to the stuff of life is what creates the inner chaos. All right, that's why sometimes some people can be upset and some people not upset about the exact same thing. So therefore, that does kind of beg the question. So I'm not finished. Where does that meaning making come from? And that's when we have to look at the brain a little bit. I want to introduce you to the FAST system of your brain. Now, you know your brain is amazing, very complex, and I'm going to simplify it into two systems. But the first one is the FAST system, because this is where reactions come from. The important thing, just like the word tells you, fast means it is automatic, just happens. Thus, the reaction, right? It's quick, 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 and it doesn't use much energy. It's just, so the brain loves that. Where does that come from? Well, one component is, this is what your brain was intended to do. It's one, not all of them, but one of the functions of your brain, keep you alive. And the most easy way to keep you alive is just to constantly be out on the alert for danger. So there is this survival function. It's almost like it becomes a bias of our brain. It wants to do that more than anything. So this survival function of our human brains leads us to do these things, to arouse fear. Oh, something's going to happen. It's going to be terrible and you might die. Watch out. Avoid pain. Run away. Resist. Seek pleasure. Remember all that covering up and masking? And seek novelty. Oh, give me a distraction. There's got to be something different. This is what social media and marketing is based on, knowing how our brains are designed this way. It's just always going to be that way because we're human, okay? But it's not all there is. It's a part of us. It's not everything. But I hope you're beginning to see the connection. Your FAST system is also the housing, I'm talking about neural pathways here that have been built over your lifetime and even myelinated so they're quick and efficient. It is a lifetime of who you are, your memories, your habits, your expertise. This stuff is not good or bad. It's just all of your experiences and the meanings that have been made of those in amazing, complex ways. These end up being your beliefs, the way you think about life in many, many different ways. And your experience is deeply a part of that. The habitual behaviors you have, whether they support you or not, all of this is in the FAST system. Very important to understand that reactions come out of this. So in some ways, the reaction we have is sort of who we are at that moment, based on one, this human component of us, survival function, and then who we are as individuals, the layered on conditioning from our childhood families, from our larger culture, from the national culture, from the time period in which we were born. So many layers of influences around that conditioning. So when we come to any stuff of life trigger, we're coming to it with all of that part of our past, this neural pathway brain that we have developed, and it just reacts to it. And your FAST system is also responsible for emotions. So you're really, really getting the inner chaos, okay? Fast. And those emotions, quick. All right, so you're with me. The stuff of life, it's a trigger. We have reactions, but there's an alternative. We don't have to react. Reaction is one element, but there's another one. Responding. And I think you understand the difference intuitively, but a reaction is just that. A response is measured, is considered, is chosen. Okay, so you can see, all right, this is the beginning of taming the chaos, is when we choose to respond, and choosing to respond differently, choosing to respond in a way that's going to serve us, choosing to respond out of a resourceful state, choosing to respond from a place of wisdom and understanding where this is coming from, which is why knowledge is powerful. Now, I want you to hear me, but stay with me and make sure you don't misunderstand. Reactions, you have very limited or no control over those, because remember, they're automatic, they're quick. Now, that's not saying you're a robot, but it's saying you have come to this moment with who you are. You're not stuck in this moment ever, okay? But in this moment, you're coming with who you are. Thus, get back to the global pandemic, the same circumstances. People are coming to it with a very different set of resources, beliefs, assumptions, conditioning. We all have that human part of wanting to survive, but we come to it different people. And therefore, this immediate reaction is going to be different based upon that. Everyone can respond because that is in your complete control. Okay, very, very different. Now, I'll explain to you in just a minute that we can even, as we change over time, those automatic responses will change because who we are, all those neural pathways, our past, 10 years from now, your past is going to include all the growth that happens over this next decade. So when you react to something, you're going to react from a different place. If you grow, and if you don't, it's going to continue to be the same. That's what we say. People have a tendency to repeat because you're just replicating the past, unless you begin to respond, intentionally do something different. Okay, responding, that comes out of this other system of the brain, the slow system. And can you see right away? I have referred to this as manual. Of course, it's not really manual, but I'm making it opposite of automatic to really help you get it, that you have to choose this. You have to engage it intentionally. And it's energy intensive. So it means we can't use it all the time. It's not going to be as quick and easy as the FAST system. So we've got to be selective. And most importantly, you're going to have to be motivated to use this particular system. But it does some pretty awesome things. All of your brain's executive functioning. You can see from this list, these are the things that make contributions possible. Meaningful things happen when we engage this part of our brain. This system, it's not a part, but this system of our brain. We can see many perspectives. That would be wonderful. To plan, to organize, to focus, right? To execute. Those are things that matter a lot. What could you do if you couldn't focus? And then, of course, to consider consequences of your actions. That's anticipating in the long term. And then complex decision making. It's not just this or that. It's considering many variables over time from many different perspectives. We're all capable of this, but it takes, right, a lot more energy and a lot more intention. And instead of a lifetime of who you are, the slow system is the potential you, the new learning, the new skills, the new behavior. When you're in school proper, that's what you're doing all the time. You're engaging that slow system, which is why learning can be kind of tiring and exhausting. And sometimes why people resist doing these new things, because you can see if it requires your slow system, the fast system's going to jump in and say, I don't think you should do that, right? Why don't you come over here and seek some pleasure and avoid some pain? So your two systems are also in conflict with each other, just to make it a little more confusing and complicated and hard, maybe. And get this one, rational thinking. Remember the other emotions. Very, very, very vital if you want to be in a responding mode, a resourceful mode. Using rational thinking rather than reacting out of a fear that something important has been attacked. Something about you has been attacked. Okay. Now I'm going to layer on one more level of complexity because I know you can handle it. We are more than the sum of our past or our human conditioning. And that's really what the fast system represents. The human nature, I think, comes expressed well through the survival function. And then our past is represented through that neural pathways, that network that has already been constructed. That's our past. But that's not all of who we are. There's another dimension to us. There's this deeper, wiser part of ourselves. It goes by many names. And so by using a name, sometimes that can trigger something from your past to cause you to misunderstand it. But deeper, wiser dimension. Let's just use that for now. Again, people can think of it in different ways. That's also a part of who you are. So what do you need to fully tame the inner chaos, to let you do those things that matter most, is you've got to shift to the slow system. And by shifting to the slow system, this is what enables you to respond and have access to these valuable functions of your marvelous, amazing human brain. And it also, remember, it's how you bring about change. And the miraculous part, I don't want to get into too much detail, is if you repeat and practice enough and get a new habit, it becomes a part of the fast system. And that's how you change who you are in a very positive way, because then it's more effortless to do the things that matter. And I'm sure perhaps you experience it yourself with habits in your life that support you and there's not a lot of work to them. And other people look at you and how do you do that? You know, some people get up early and they go run and they prepare for marathons. Like, how do people do that? But for them, it's developed a habit. It's not as hard as it looks for someone who's never done it, because it's about which system they're using. So we won't get too far down that rabbit trail. And then the other thing that's involved in shifting to the slow system is engaging that deeper, wiser part of ourselves. And this is another way to think of it, as this intuitive heart. Some people would even say that this is the spiritual dimension to who we are. Our soul Many, many ways to think of it, but it's that part of you that's not trapped into this war. It's calmer. And by shifting and engaging this intuitive heart center, you can begin to shift to the slow system, have access to all these resources, and make those amazing things happen. And so what I'll do here is just give you a few ideas. This is not comprehensive in any way whatsoever, but these are some of the things that I work with clients to help them as they begin to tame their inner chaos. And, part of what we do is work on identifying where the stuck places are and where the latched hold of in the fast system beliefs that are getting in the way. But then it's about always choosing a way to respond that's differently. And it always begins by noticing. You can't do anything until you notice it. So developing practices for noticing. This is where there are many ways to do this, but it's like slowing down. This is what mindfulness is about, being attentive, noticing, awareness of what is going on. Notice when you have these reactions. When you see yourself behaving in this way, noticing it. And then allowing, connecting with the body. And this gets into more than I'll have time to get to, but what's happened is, remember, inner chaos are these unpleasant emotions, and we don't want them, we resist them. But real transformation and power comes when you allow them. And you will be surprised if you don't feed them with your mind. If you just allow the sensation that's associated with the emotion to just be there in your body, experience it, it works itself through your body in a very short period of time, and it's gone. An amazing thing. Compassion. Compassion for yourself, first and foremost, to avoid all that shaming and blaming of yourself. When you see yourself respond and react in a way you don't like, give yourself compassion. And as you do this, you will over time be able to do that for other people as well. Layering on criticism to yourself it does not help dissipate it. And then pause for a minute and notice what else is true. There are other things. The reaction comes from a fixation of seeing something in a narrow way and exaggerating it. But if you begin to bring in other things, it can have a way of shrinking it and saying, well, this thing is true. Yeah, but there are many, many, many other things that are true, and that can help you. Broaden and shift your perspective. It's a similar thing. Finding a way to see a much bigger picture. Shifting your perspective involves many, many different things, strategies you can use, but mantras are a way of doing this. Affirmations, where you have a belief you want to go to instead. And whenever you have that practiced mantra, that practiced affirmation, then this helps you, reconnect with a belief that brings about a very different emotional state for you. And over time, when you practice that enough, it becomes something that you really believe in. It's not a practice, not an effort. It just becomes a part of you. And then gratitude and appreciation. This is one of the most powerful ways to bring out to connect that intuitive part of yourself with the larger world. As you begin noticing the world, the small things, the energy of the sun, the beauty in a small flower, nature, the fact that, wow, I am whole today. I have food I have access to. Good chance I have electricity in my home. Good chance I have access to the internet. So many things, but you can think very small things. And as you gain that appreciation, it energizes that part of yourself and it connects you with other things. All of this empowers you to respond, which, remember, you can see many perspectives, you can see complexity, you can learn new things, all kinds of things that you can do there. So this was your very, very, very quick overview. I'll just wrap up again by saying I'm Janet Hudson, and I am a coach that helps people tame their inner chaos. And what I've tried to do today is just help you get a little bit of an understanding of what triggers inner chaos, understanding that it is not the circumstances and people, but it's really coming from inside of ourselves, the meaning we have made, and the fact that we can actually react and shift away from the reactions. We can grow and change. We're never, ever stuck with where we are. So now I'll say bye for now. You can contact me in any of these variety of ways. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.